Hey YouTubers, so we're going to continue with the second layer. We have this one that we just finished, and now we're going to start on the second one. For the second one, we're going to be using this carpenter's pencil right here. And with this, the reason I like using this pencil because it's flat. It's got a flat tip, and because of that, it makes it easier to go over the indentations without actually getting any graphite in the indentations. So again, we're just going to go along the edges of this layer, of the second layer, and the third layer. So again, basically what we're just doing here, we're separating the layers. And I'm just slightly going over along the edge. And once we have that, we're gonna start darkening the shadows. So we have that now. Again, we're doing the same thing that we did on the previous section, except that this hair is going to be lighter. So we're still looking for these clumps. See these clumps of hairs, but now we're looking for them in within the lighter hairs. And as we darken this area, these clumps are going to be more visible. That's why we don't darken it too much, because again, this hair is lighter than the rest of the hair, than the hair below. So, like I said, I'm just lightly going over the paper. You should be able to see those single hairs that we added in the end. And those are the hairs that we're going to be highlighting at the end with a kneaded eraser. Like I said, I'm just separating I'm just darkening some of the shadows in order to bring out for me to find the indentations, for me to find the layers and the clumps of hair. And then once we have that, we'll go in and further darken the shadows in order to bring those details even more. Again, it's helpful to sometimes flip the drawing, because it helps you find these layers and details. Okay, so we're going to start from the lowest layer, and the lowest layer is going to be back here along the edge. Along the edge here. So these hairs are below these hairs above it. So we're going to start darkening this area even more. Again, I'm searching for shadows that makes sense. And that's something I can't teach you. That's something that you need to learn on your own, is the understanding of hair. You need to go in and study hair for you to find these patterns and details. So like I mentioned earlier, I can teach you the technique, but it's not going to be as useful if you don't understand what you are indenting or you're drawing. See, for example, this section right here. See this right here? I'm going to darken it even further. To suggest that this area down here is like a hole within all that hair, so there's no light hitting that area. So it casts all our shadow. So this is a 6B pencil. Again, I'm barely touching the paper. There's 2 layers here. Again, this hair is not completely white. It's got a bit of tone value, so it's going to be a bit dark. So we can't leave it completely white. Again, I'm just bringing out the shadows, like bit by bit. And as I'm doing this, I'm paying close attention if I recognize any clumps of hairs, so then I could go in after and darken the shadows around those clumps in order to make them stand out even more. Again, this is not the only way to draw hair. Like, that's what I want you to understand. This is how I draw hair, and I hope that it's useful and it does help you, but it's not the only way. There are different ways of drawing hair, but this is my method. So I'll be happy if it works out and it's helpful for your artwork, but if it doesn't, then at least you know that there's another technique out there. So I want you to keep that in mind. So it's a lot of the same thing. I'm just going slowly, layering the pencil, the graphite, and bit by bit I'm bringing out the shadows. I can already see which clumps I'm going to be highlighting after. Again, if this is your first time here, just please go back to the beginning of the tutorial for you to understand what's going on. And when I say clumps, I mean we're taking individual indentations and we're grouping them together by erasing the graphite between them. But right now we're not doing that. Right now I'm just bringing the shadows out. And when I say shadows, the shadows are the areas on the paper that were not indented by the stylus. For example, this area right here. These dark areas, those are areas where the stylus didn't indent. And that's why I said at the beginning, keep the indentations close, because if you don't, you're gonna have a lot of these areas like this, and you don't want that. You want them randomly around the paper, but you don't want too many of them, because then it's just gonna look like a bald spot, and you don't want that. You want the hair to look thick. And the thing about the indentations, if you it doesn't matter how close you get them, you're always gonna have some areas where the needle doesn't indent the paper. And that's what we want. Okay, we'll stop here, and don't forget to subscribe for the next video.